says we are live. Oh, it's not October yet. Welcome to episode 118 of the Crafty Boys. And it's all Dave's fault this week.
As always.
Yeah, suck it, Dave. Yeah, pitchfork that bastard. I have my tiki torch. So anyway, how's it going, boys?
Very well, and how are you?
Sweet.
I'm doing well. I have beer this evening with me, and
That's a good
it's
thing.
going to get better as the evening goes on.
Good thing.
Let's talk about the beer. Who picked it?
I did.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I actually went into the beer store and I found a couple of beers that I kind of liked, and this is one of them. It's called the Weeping Reaper Blood Orange Hellsbock or Hellsbock from Dead Frog. There it is, right there. Can you guys see that?
Dead Frog. It's been a while. Do you guys know what a Bock is?
Yes, he was a composer from a while back, and
Prolific
made
in both music and children, apparently.
It is a dark German lager, is what it is. Because it's usually dark. But the Hellsbock is a sub. Is like a sub version, a sub style. Okay. Like it's apparently paler. I don't know. I'm gonna open mine up because my bottle looks so sexy.
It does. It looks pretty cool. So it is according.
Surprise! Sorry.
According to the label, it says it's a haunting golden lager with a hint of blood orange. A crisp golden lager with a splash of citrus, a sweet caress of fruity hop flavor and aroma, and a brisk dry finish.
Look at that. Look at that.
It's powerful.
It looks unfiltered.
It is most likely, yeah. Well, most European beers are unfiltered.
It is a 7% alcohol by volume, 26 IBU. Features Northern Brewer and Hallertau hops, as well as Pilsner, Vienna, and Munich malts.
It smells quite good.
The bottle, by the way, exhorts us to collect experiences, not things.
All this shit's going! All right, well, yeah, that's it. Everything. That really smarts. Don't smack your microphone, boys and girls, because that can have repercussions for years. So, first off, the smell smells like a lager. It's like a strong lagery smell.
Mm-hmm. And a strong lagery kind of taste too.
I have to say, I'm having a little trouble tasting the blood orange. However, I don't remember the last time I had a blood orange, so I'm trying to remember if they're not really sweet. They're kind of
well, I'm detecting a bit of a sort of a citrusy kind of kick to it. You know, there's a little bit of a sting on the on the taste buds from it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I compare it to other Bocks that I've had, maybe this is an unfair comparison, but the Herminator, which comes out every Christmas, is what's called an Ice Bock, and that has sort of like a more meaty kind of flavor than this does. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Sometimes the Herminator can be overpowering. We don't have a lot of Bocks. I don't see a lot of them on the shelf, so it's not something that we have a lot to compare with. But yes, you're right. This is a very lagery kind of flavor and smell. Thoughts? Anybody?
I don't mind it.
You don't mind it?
I'm not sure I would get it again, but I don't mind it.
I give this a thumbs up. I really do. I think that
I think it's good.
I have no problem with this beer at all.
Before we go on, I want to point out here that also Dead Frog on the label has put it a recommended glass for the beer.
Really?
It says a hollowed out skull of your enemies. So that gets a couple of bonus points just for that. So I'm going to give this beer a thumbs up. It's light, but not too light. It's kind of a nice. All right.
Shane's going hardcore tonight. He's going to mix this to kill you with the beer.
No, God no. This is of course is a skull of the what is
Crystal Head Vodka.
Crystal Head Vodka.
Crystal Head Vodka. Owned by Dan Aykroyd, I believe.
Yeah, he. I think it's a partnership of some sort. But yeah, he. Actually, did you guys ever? Speaking of vodka, did you ever? What was that vodka where the selling point was that the vodka had first been poured over the breasts of a Playboy bunny? Did you ever see that one?
What?
No.
I completely missed that one.
Where is that? There's yeah, there was a, it was a here we go. Company claims it's the alcohol company G Spirits says every drop of their booze is poured over a model's naked breasts before bottling. A German liquor company, this is 2013, I think. No, this is 2012. German liquor company called G Spirits is promising customers that every drop of its line of alcoholic beverages has been poured over the naked breasts of a certified model with her approval, of course. The brand sells rum, whiskey, and vodka necessary for making a truly dirty martini. You want to get close to your Playmate of the Year? The booze brand brags that its barrel-aged whiskey has been thoroughly splashed on the ample bosom of Alexa Varga, Hungary's 2012 Playboy Playmate of the Year. Its expensive whiskey is poured over the...
Does that mean she just dips her boobs into the vat or something?
Well, all the photography is her just dumping bottles of this stuff on herself. But I'm actually kind of curious if G Spirits is even still around, because it has been a while. Oh no, oh yeah, no, they're. Oh wait, no, they're still around. Wow. There you go. Rum number one, whiskey number one, vodka number one. They have apparently a making of video, even better. Of course, sponsored by Playboy and a bunch of other men's magazines. Of course. But yeah, here you go. Yeah, there's actually a video of Alexa Varga pouring vodka all over herself. Wow. And the two guys who founded the company don't look like they've ever actually seen a woman naked. So anyway, apparently this was a limited run of 5,000 bottles that every drop touched the model's flesh. And the best part is, I'm going to send you the link that I found from the New York Daily News, which of course would never lie to us, is the actual method. They have a lot of photography of girls pouring bottles on them, but they actually have a production hose that the models are spraying all over their breasts. And there's a catch basin below that. So there you go. Who knew? And you know, after I've seen that, nothing could get weirder, except for what, Alan?
Dave naked?
No, your link, man. Your link.
Oh. Well, apparently, there's a rapper. Now, I first, okay, so this is the first weird part. There is a rapper named B.O.B., I guess, for Bob. So that's the first bit of weird news. The second bit of weird news is that this rapper Bob is a member of the Flat Earth Society and is trying to raise $1 million so that he can launch a satellite to prove once and for all that the Earth is flat. So apparently, the Flat Earth Society began in the early 1800s, but has received a resurgence for the past few years. These people do not trust NASA or any other space agency. They believe that when you're flying in an airplane, the windows are purposely provide a distorted view outside to make it look like you see the curvature of the Earth when there is no curvature of the Earth, and that gravity actually isn't real. They don't believe gravity is real. They also don't believe that the International Space Station actually exists. They think it's a hoax. So this rapper guy named Bob is starting a crowdfunding campaign to raise $1 million to put a satellite above the Earth. Now, the first thing that kind of makes me kind of go, raise my eyebrows about this is $1 million for a satellite. I mean, isn't that like $1 billion thing? I mean, I'm thinking $1 million is gonna cut it.
Apparently, he updated his campaign a few hours ago. He now wants to launch weather balloons as well, so that might be how it's going to be done. Of course, he spelled experimental wrong, but it's experimental. Experimental. Help Bob find the curve.
Maybe this is just an amazing publicity stunt. Do you think?
I hope so.
No, why would he do that?
I really hope so, because
no. I mean, he's getting people to talk about him.
Yeah, well,
I never heard of rapper Bob.
That's a good point.
Before reading this article. Now I've heard of him. I'm not going to listen to his music.
I really want to know where the number is that he got. Like he's increased. He first apparently wanted $200,000. So now he wants $1 million. Now here's the thing.
That's a bit of a jump.
He's not specific as to what exactly a satellite is, because it's more than just a like you can't just take a camera and launch it into space. Like, I mean, you can. Will it last very long? I'm not entirely sure. The radiation, I know, if you don't harden those things, will eventually flake out. So it's not like you can just take a GoPro, stick it in a plastic ball, and fire it into space.
Well, actually, he may believe that you can, because he doesn't believe in the force of gravity.
Sorry, back up. What?
Okay, so flat earthers do not believe that gravity is real. I mentioned this before. Were you even listening? So flat earthers say that gravity doesn't exist. And maybe that's why he thinks he can launch a satellite for $1 million. Now, here's the other thing, okay? In order to launch a satellite into what we call orbit, means it has to go around something. Which, if he was able to successfully launch a satellite from a flat Earth body, it would go anywhere. It would go straight up and it'd be gone. Like, it couldn't just hover. But maybe he believes it could because he doesn't believe in gravity. I don't know what's going on.
I'm wondering, is this actually a ploy where somebody will send him up to the space station for free?
No.
Is he really? I'm not buying the whole flat Earth thing for somebody. Well,
there is a lot of people in the Flat Earth Society. They supposedly have 3,500 paying members, according to that was in the mid 1990s. Now, especially with the the popularity of a certain U.S. president and seeming dumbing down of a particular large society, I would imagine that number is quite a bit bigger.
I'm not sure that segment of society that you mentioned even would think of belonging to a flat Earth society. Quite honestly,
yeah, they would.
They wouldn't take the time to be bothered.
Oh, sure they would. These are dumb people,
dude. They're too busy getting in their jacked up pickup trucks and going out and shooting off their AR-15s all over the place. They got better things to do.
Dave, I think we broke Shane.
He does look a little...
I think he looks a little peaked.
I
think his incredulity circuit just blew.
Which kind of brings me up with something like with the whole flat Earth society thing. I had an argument with a guy maybe 20, 25 years ago. And he said there's no way that there's anybody out there that could possibly believe that the Earth is flat. I said, oh, yeah, there can be. And there is. And he said, no, no way. And I said, once an ideology, you cannot destroy it. It will always exist in some manner. You can almost snuff it out, but you can't quite kill it. There's always going to be somebody to resurrect it. And that's what's happened with the Flat Earth Society. And now it's facing a bit of resurgence.
I need more beer.
Yeah. Drink up. What? Hey, you know what? Okay. Just a bit of a side note. Just a side note. Getting back to the beer. The more I drink it, I'm really tasting the blood orange now. I don't know if you guys are noticing that.
It definitely has a blood orange aftertaste.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm liking this even more. Works on like a couple of different levels.
Okay. Here are the top, according to the Metro UK, which would never be wrong. Here are the top 10 reasons that people believe the Earth is flat. The Earth looks flat, so it must be flat. Honestly, this is one of the reasons. And the main one cited by the intellectual heavyweight Bob in his recent meltdown. Apparently, Bob had a meltdown? Not too bad.
He seems like such an emotionally and stable individual.
It's cheaper to fake journeys into space than it is to journey into space.
I would agree with that.
Apparently, the global conspiracy has been embezzling all this money ever since the 50s. Satellite photos are easily faked. Day and night are created by the sun orbiting in a circle above and then beneath the North Pole.
There can't be a pole if it's flat.
It only moves sideways, hence winter and summer. Okay. People who think they've flown around the Earth have just traveled in a big circle around the North Pole. The North Pole being in the middle because the Earth is a pancake. It all stays together because there's a big ice wall around the edge. The oceans don't spill off because there's a wall of ice called Antarctica, and the Flat Earth Society. Gravity doesn't exist. Instead, the Earth is constantly accelerating upwards with the force of gravity. Earth is accelerating upwards due to dark energy. Photos from aeroplanes look curved because of the window. An experiment proved that a 6-mile stretch of water is flat.
What experiment?
Except it didn't really. It was famously misread by previous flat earthers who weren't the brightest crayons in the pack.
Hey, I think this guy's a couple cans short of a 6-pack. Shane, it's fine. It's what they believe. I mean, it's not fine, but but I think this discussion lends a nice segue into our next discussion, because for the first time in 15, 16, 17 years, there was a new Star Trek series that premiered this past week. Did you guys watch it?
Damn straight.
I don't believe in Star Trek. I only believe in the Beatles.
What?
Sorry, I'm really just flabbergasted at how retarded people are. Okay. You are talking about Star Trek. I'm ready now.
Okay. So, yeah, so I'm talking about Star Trek Discovery. I mean, we don't want to totally nerd out, in our beer podcast here, because
we do.
Okay,
this is important man stuff to discuss.
It is. Okay, so Star Trek Discovery premiered, special 2-hour thing. When was the last time Enterprise was on? When did it go off the air?
2005.
2005.
So we're talking steaming dump.
So we're talking 12 years. You know what? I didn't mind Star Trek Enterprise. I thought it was okay.
I didn't mind it either. I just think that they questioned themselves by the end of whether or not the show was any good. Because of the very last episode, they took a steaming dump on top of the Enterprise series with the and we'll be creating the thing called the Federation, and everyone is going to have a hand in its creation, and it'll be great, blah, 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 blah. Computer, save and end program. So, Deanna, that's totally how the things work. Pardon me while I do my Riker maneuver. Yeah, I don't know. I felt I was a bit pissed at the end of the very. I mean, I thought the series was okay. All those series have their issues because of whatever limitations in scripting and the speed at which they have to make these things. But when they decided that the show wasn't popular enough that they needed to bring in a TNG thing right at the very end, that was a bit strange. And I hope I didn't spoil it for anyone. But overall, Enterprise, I think, stood on its own.
The show from 12 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a long time.
All right. So we got a special 2-hour thing. And
shut up, Cameron.
What did you guys think? Shane, let's start with you. Okay. So Dave loved it. Shane?
I was pleased. And let me tell you why, because I ranted about this last night after watching it a second time. The 3 films that came out between 2009 and last year, to me, are not Star Trek. They are Star Trek-esque. They have some character names in them that we're familiar with. But ultimately, they're not Star Trek because they were focused on a different, the action. They were focused on a different perspective of how films are being made in the action sort of genre. Where, to me, Star Trek, the shows from the original series all the way through now, were about the people that just happened to live in space. And there happened to be this thing called the Federation. There happened to be, other races that had similar technology. That everyone was kind of on a level playing field because it didn't really matter whether or not. Hey, we're talking about Star Trek. You want to hear more about it, Allie?
Sure.
Or you just want the beer?
I just want to
Actually, I'm going to get a little bit more. There you go, Peanut Gallery.
Thanks.
So it was about the people, and I think the most, I mean, the film suffered from a lot of things, like a not so strong script, but also getting their budget cut out from under them midway through production. But Star Trek V, which is considered to be one of the probably the second to worst film, the motion sickness being the worst. Because of the same problems. Not a great script, focused on a lot of special effects, focused on the action in that film anyway. And the rest of it was kind of ignored. Like the characters were kind of put to the side somewhat. So the bookends, now I'm going to ignore the entire film, but the bookends of Star Trek V is Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Chekhov, and oh my god, Sulu going camping in a national park. Now, where do you see that in an action film? Not really, because these guys are like, we're going this way and we're going to hang out and we're going to do something cool that has nothing to do with space, has nothing to do with our careers, has nothing to do with anything other than, pack out your trash. So you don't see that in these other films, and they try to, like, my favorite part is in, I think it was the second Star Trek film, or was it the first one? I can't remember. Where McCoy is following Kirk around saying, these readings from your medical exam or whatever the hell are troublesome. We need to look at your heart and see what the hell's going on. This is really serious. And he pesters him for 10, 15 seconds, really adamantly. There's something wrong with your heart. We have to do something about this. And then nothing for the rest of the film. Not a thing. They don't address it. They don't talk about it. Even Star Trek V kind of dealt with that kind of stuff and actually resolved it. But it was the problem is you have these films that are about humanity, about characters, and Star Trek Enterprise kind of did that like all the other stuff. But the new show, Star Trek Discovery, I can see, even though they've got the lens flares and all the fancy J.J. Abrams crap in it, they actually seem to have gone backwards. And they even so far have said, yeah, by the way, this is in Star Trek Prime or Timeline Prime or whatever the hell they're calling it, where the last 3 films are a different timeline. So they're kind of distancing themselves a bit from the previous 3 films. So yeah, I don't know. I got to say I'm very, very hopeful is all I'm saying in a long-winded way. I'm very hopeful that they're going to return to Star Trek's roots about people in space, not space being this huge octopod multi-armed dick that fucks with people because they're in space.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. For a Star Trek pilot, it was pretty good. I mean, if you think back to all the other Star Trek series, the pilots, the first episode, generally tend to be very underwhelming. This one, I wasn't like on the edge of my seat throughout it. In fact, I wasn't on the edge of my seat at all through it. But I thought, out of all of the first episodes for all the Star Trek series, this one was probably the best. But that's not saying a lot. I didn't like the Klingons. I get that they kind of have to put their own stamp on it, that the Klingons had become too friendly from the other episodes, and I can understand why they would want to change them up to make them into bad guys again. So I get that. But I think they overdid it. They were too heavy on the makeup and the prosthetics and all that. And the actors, I don't think, could really emote through all that. I mean, Klingons are supposed to be emotional creatures. And I didn't get any kind of emotion from them at all, even anger. I mean, I couldn't even get any kind of like anger from them. I didn't like that. Now,
so were you watching this through a filter
through a filter?
that removed emotion? Because there was plenty of fucking anger there. I didn't noticing that.
I saw emotionless talking about how they didn't like humans and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really sense anger or rage or anything like that. The actors inside of those bodysuits couldn't even get through with their craft. It was like the makeup and the prosthetics was so overpowering. I didn't like that. I didn't like the speaking of the Klingons. It was like watching 3-year-olds trying to talk.
Oh, you're talking about like when they were in all the Klingon scenes.
Oh, the Klingon scenes, yeah. So I mean, it was like sentences were 3 words only.
Yeah, but it's a monosyllable language, so that's
yeah, I know, but still, it was very difficult. It was very tedious, I found. But I mean, and like I said, and they've said this, that these 2 episodes are just kind of like a prologue or a prelogue, whatever, before the actual series starts. So now, when the actual series starts with the first episode, it's going to be like they're going to be on the Discovery ship, and it's going to be a new crew and all that kind of stuff because the captain's dead, obviously, from the. So this is sort of like almost like a prequel before the actual series starts. So I think the rest of the series is going to be a lot different from what we saw in the first 2 episodes. Right. And I think they've laid the groundwork for it as something really positive. So I'm hopeful. I'll give it a go. But if it's not okay by season 3, I'm done.
Where are these from?
Agreed.
Guys, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt.
What?
They are cookies.
Oh, cookies. I was going to ask if it was poop.
I wonder how these cookies taste with beer. Let's find out. Sorry. Oh my God. They're still warm.
Oh. Focus.
I'm focusing. Star Trek is awesome. Sorry.
But chocolate cookies are better.
So anyway.
So what do you think of my thoughts?
Kapla.
Kapla?
Kapla means success in Klingon. Oh my God. He totally wasn't listening.
Yeah.
So Dave, you like the show, but
Indeed.
why?
Why?
Yeah. Give me more detail.
Huh. Wow. Okay. So try and get it into speaking. I like the Klingons. And I was pretty impressed that they got a bunch of actors and actresses that could get their tongues around the language. Because that's not easy to speak that stuff. But I think they did a pretty decent job of it. That's kind of technical stuff. I think some of what Alan said already about what he liked, I like. It's really getting back to what Trek is about. Well, and you said it too. The characters, the beings, the stories, not how did you put it, this 9-armed dick that just fucks with people, I think was something like how you put it. It's it's just all this stuff happens, and space happens to be the place where it happens. I also agree with Alan that I think it's probably the best pilot that they've run. I think it's one of the best pilots I've seen, period, on TV for anything. Because for me, they just hit a lot of the right notes. I mean, there's nothing saying that elements aren't going to suck. And I'm really curious about the Klingons. Like, you can't make them fit into the Trek Prime because there's no way. Nobody is going to buy it. So I'm kind of curious if something happens that causes a change in physiology or something.
I would be disappointed if that's what happens. I mean, why bother going through all this then? I mean, just keep the physiology the same.
But how do you make that make sense with?
I think if they put in something in the story that causes the Klingons to change their physiology to match what has been done in the past, I think that's going to be a huge cop out, and people are just going to be like, yeah, whatever. They're not going to take it seriously.
But then how do you explain the differences in physiology?
You don't. You just say this is a new show. It's a different show, and that's it. It's not reality. It's a TV show.
What the hell, man? God. It's 2251 or 6. Probably.
Okay, so this leads me to another question then. Star Trek or Star Wars? Which comes first?
What do you mean, which comes first?
What do you put the priority on? Okay, new Star Wars is opening one night. The new Star Trek movie is opening the same night, and they're both only on for one night at the same time, and they'll never be shown again anywhere. Which one do you go to see?
Star Wars.
Yeah, same. Shane?
What era? Brand new films or films?
No, it would be like, like Rick Berman doing it, based on Gene Roddenberry's Bible and all that kind of stuff.
Seriously? So why even ask the question? It's meaningless.
Then well, here's the thing. In this day and age, I get to see both, one just later on, so I'd probably do
No. In this scenario,
they play it once and that's it.
That's it. They'll be burned after that.
So Alan has time warped us back to 1987.
Yes.
And video stores are very selective, and
no, there are no video stores for this.
Okay. Well, then I'd probably agree. I'd probably do Star Wars. I'd really hate myself, and I'd probably knife the next person in line and be like, "Give me a ticket for Star Trek."
You know what we would do? We'd go see Star Wars, and then we'd pay Todd or somebody else to go see Star Trek, and then we'd exchange notes.
Not a bad idea.
I'm just saying. I mean, that's what I would do.
I would go out and hide in the cans and just wait till the next showing of Star
No, there is no next show. You guys are kind of missing this. It's one show at the same time. One.
See, now you're just stretching things.
No, that's the thing. Is there's one show and that's all you get. The other, like the original Star Wars never being inducted into the whatever the hell the Library of Congress in the U.S. is called. Their archive of film, whatever. where Star Wars was selected back in like, I don't know, sometime in the 80s to be like, hey, by the way, we totally should have your film here. And Lucas was like, nah, it's not done. And I'm going to change it. So then it was changed, and they're like, well, no, we want the original that was, that was in theaters back in 1977. And he's like, no, sorry, that wasn't the finished film. So yeah, of all these films where they take the original films and preserve them in a climate controlled area so that in theory they will be around forever and they're digitized and all this kind of fun stuff. He won't let them. It's a bit strange. Well, actually, at the time, but of course, does the original exist somewhere from back then?
It has to. It has to.
Well,
even if Lucas doesn't know it, somebody from Paramount has the original.
Well, you'd think so. You would think so. I mean, that is true. I suspect there probably is somewhere. But it's like that whole fan-generated thing where they're actually trying to build the original film from basically copies. The main one, the main source is the original VHS that somebody recorded at some point. I don't know exactly what the story is. I'd have to look it up again, but they have used that as a source, as the main source material, and then have picked like little bits and bobs from wherever they can find pieces to actually reform the original film from 1977. Very similar to like the Doctor Who restoration project, where at the time that the original Doctor Who, up until 1975 or something, it was broadcast, but they never actually kept recordings of it. So, and then sometime at some point in I want to say the early 90s, the late 80s, the BBC purged a whole bunch of their stock, saying we don't need these anymore. And then somebody later on was like, that show that we're kind of known for? Yeah, we need to get that back. So they're missing like 90 episodes or 100 episodes or something over the last 50 years, and like a lot of them have been discovered. The latest big find that I remember from about 5 or 6 years ago was a station in Nigeria that had a bunch of the originals that they were sent when they were being broadcast back when that's how things worked. So they sent them back to the BBC and they were cleaned up and whatnot. And episodes that they know they probably will never get, because unless they're in somebody's attic somewhere that have been recorded somehow magically, they've actually started to animate them. And a lot of them, especially the original episodes from like the 60s, there was this dude that was paid by the BBC to go to the set when they were filming and to take stills of stuff as they were happening. So they took those episodes and here's the thing. They have all the audio of these shows. They just don't have the video. So a lot of these episodes, if you get the DVDs or whatnot, and you get to those episodes, it's just stills with the audio track underneath. And they flip the stills, hopefully, to the action that's actually going on. So, that kind of stuff. So, would I, at the end of the day, piece together a film that I could never see? Hell yes. If we had to piece together Star Trek, whatever the hell, and we were never going to be able to see it any other way, I would make the effort to do that. Now, actually, this brings up a point about Star Trek Discovery. Now, Star Trek Discovery is available on Netflix everywhere except Canada and the United States. The United States has the CBS All Access streaming service, which you can pay $6.99 for, whatever the hell the price is. But Canada cannot access that particular service unless you have a cable program in Canada, or a cable package, sorry. So if you go to CBS All Access, you have to prove through their whatever the magic is that they do that you are a subscriber of those cable services, and then you can stream that content. And this is something that you can do with a bunch of things that are not available here. And up until a couple of days before, I was under the understanding that Netflix would be broadcasting in Canada. But then I read a bit more about it going, oh, well, when is it actually coming out? And then there's a big red sign. By the way, Netflix has actually said that no, not in Canada. You still have to use CBS All Access. So
It's not entirely true.
how did you, well, elaborate then if I'm wrong.
How did I watch it? It was on the it was broadcast on the Space Channel.
Okay, well, hang on. I don't have a cable package. I don't get Space.
So, okay, in Canada, it is being streamed on Crave TV.
I don't have that either because you have to have a cable package.
You don't. Do you need to have a cable package for Crave TV?
Last time I checked.
You used to when it first came out, but I don't think you do anymore.
Let me go look because I remember looking at some point and they said, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah, at some point you did, and then I don't think you do anymore.
All right, let me look. I'm going to look right now because I'd like to know. Not that I want to.
Because I think it's only like $8 a month or something like that. I don't have it, but
let's see. Start your 1 month trial. Blah, blah, blah. $8 a month. Yes. So in theory,
you could.
I could subscribe to Crave TV. Now, would I want to? Probably not.
Probably not.
I might, if the series was over, I might watch it and binge it and cancel it. But again, the other thing I want to actually watch is that thing called After Trek, which is basically the BBC did this a lot, where they did a thing where you could watch basically a behind the scenes program for every episode. So the show would broadcast, and then right after it, there would be this other program that was a behind the scenes thing.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
I watched After Trek.
I don't know, how was it? Was it actually worth it?
Not really.
No. Well, there you go.
It's kind of like a nerd kind of forum kind of thing. There's a guy there that I don't know what his purpose is, and he talks a little bit about the episode. Oh my god, we saw this in the episode. Oh my god, I'm gonna go scream and
jerk off.
Yeah. And then they had an interview with the main cast from they were live from Toronto, interestingly.
That's where it's filmed.
And yeah. This actually makes me think of something. Maybe it was about 20 years ago. Remember Jim Goodman, who we used to do improv with?
Oh yeah, the gay not gay man.
Yeah. Oh god. Anyway, he about 20 years ago, he went to Toronto for an audition for a Star Trek series where he was up for a role as like a cat-like alien.
I was not snickering. I
thought it was kind of interesting.
Cool. That's kind of bizarre.
So I mean, in Toronto, and now this show is being done in Toronto.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, because there have been many starts and stops for getting Star Trek on TV again. I'm kind of surprised that it took them this long. But again,
I'm not.
They were probably sitting around going, well, let's watch how the movies do. So how did you end up watching if you didn't have Crave TV? How did you watch it, Alan?
I watched it on Space Channel.
What about you, Dave?
I think I'd rather not say.
Illegal means. Illegal means.
The other thing too is that because on Space you have to prove that you have a cable thing to watch the show. Here's the thing, because it makes me so sad that us as Canadians have no way if you don't have a cable program. And it looks like Crave TV, I could purchase it. But then again, I would prefer to say pay for something that I might actually have programs on I'd want to see. There's a service called Acorn TV, which I think is a decent one, which is a company that broadcasts or streams BBC content, because the BBC, the streaming inside of the UK, you can watch everything for I think 7 or 14 days after it's broadcast on the network. And if you're a cable subscriber or you're a subscriber to the BBC, you can watch any of their content streamed over their website.
Why don't you just get a VPN and get Hulu?
That's a good question. Then I have to pay for a VPN.
But some VPNs out there are pretty cheap.
But I don't know. It kind of depends, because here's the thing that you would think that. I mean, my argument, whether it's flawed or not, is basically that the broadcasters already know that we want, or we as in the general public who watch television, would like to have sort of a one-stop shop for where we watch our stuff.
But we're not going to get that.
Yeah. But HBO, obviously Paramount or whoever's controlling the streaming rights for, I guess that's Paramount, for Star Trek Discovery, are still trying to hold on to the old model. They're still trying to hold on to we restrict access to this in such a way that we use country boundaries as the solution. Mm. I don't know. 10 years ago, I'd be like, well, yeah, okay. But now, I don't know. Were I running Paramount or somehow in control of the streaming part of Paramount, I would probably just tell Netflix, take it, do your thing, give us dough, and whatever the deal is for them. But also retain the rights to stream it on whatever services that we want to have. Because I think at this point right now, Netflix is definitely becoming the one-stop shop for as much content as possible, which, by the way, tomorrow morning, the heritage minister of our fair country is going to be announcing that Netflix is going to be investing $500 million over the next 5 years into creating Canadian content for their platform. So if you've seen posters and things for the show Anne, so basically another rendition of Anne of Green Gables, that is actually a co-pro between the CBC and with Netflix. So the thing is, it's not just about the watching, it's about the creating, because here's the problem. Like the porn industry, the pornography industry has known this pain already for years. Nobody wants to pay for their content. So you go from the 60s and especially the 70s, where you had a pornography sort of coming into its own as an art form, where people wrote out scripts, they wrote out stuff, they wrote out storylines. The people who were in them, sure, they were taking off their clothes and having sex, but some of them, not all of them, but some of them definitely had acting chops. They actually were actors, whether they were in the mainstream or not, but they became actors in that industry. And then over time, that's sort of the 1980s, when the really cheap VCRs, video cameras on VHS hammered that industry to the point where they realized that they could. I see what I did there. Where they were able to space penis, but they didn't have. They didn't realize, I think, what they were doing. That they were able to go, well, you know what? We can get, pretty girl A and big dick guy B here, stick them in a courtyard and tell them, you're the cleaner of the house and you're gonna fuck the cleaner, or the maid. and they could do it really cheaply with very little investment in hardware. You know, a video, I'm talking like VHS video cameras were probably, or even beta ones were, you know, probably in the thousands at the time, but you know, you could have access to them if you were selling that product. Now, advanced to 1993 and the internet kind of taking over, the porn industry, especially in the last 15 years, is basically decimated. No one wants to pay for their content because it's available free, and the dudes who own Pornhub, which is sort of the biggest sort of website that people go to see free porn, here's the trick that no one talks about. Pornhub was created by, I believe, university students who were trying to make money. Whether, I don't know if they were the nerds, I don't know. I don't know much about that part, but the guy that bought it from them also bought up the production companies, because when Pornhub became a thing and became a powerhouse in being able to distribute pornography, they had a lot of money, they had a lot of capital, and they had a lot of investors who were like, well, you know, how are we going to make money at this? So they turn around and they buy all these production companies that were attempting to sue them, and now they own the production and the distribution. So Netflix, in theory, the big play that they could make would be to turn around and buy CBS or buy NBC or buy, which they probably have enough cash to do that now. Whether they'll do it now somehow, I doubt it. But that's, I think, is that small example of the porn industry, of how the porn industry is trying to survive in the freely open internet. I think that is going to happen in the other, on the sort of the mainstream side of video content that's being generated. And I think it's going to be, at least right now, Netflix is the only thing big enough to really make that happen. Prime is teeny, Crave is even smaller. You know, these companies are too tiny. And like you're talking about market share, the only reason I'm thinking about this porn stuff is that I was watching a documentary which is on Netflix. There's a documentary on being that's produced by Rashida Jones, I think is her name. She was in Parks and Rec. But she's talking about, she did a documentary a couple of years ago. It was very good. It was talking about how porn is made in sort of the mainstream sort of realm of companies that get together and actually film the stuff. And so they followed that up with a about 6-episode series of different aspects of different ways people make money in that sort of sex industry. But the most fascinating one was the dude who was like, yeah, no, so I own Pornhub and I got it from a couple students, and then I decided, you know what, I hate being sued, so I'm gonna go out and buy those guys because they got no money. So, you know, I'm watching, you know, the NBCs of the world suffer under that system that's slowly dying. And, you know, then you have the rise of the ad revenue stuff on YouTube. My God, it's just nuts. But anyway, basically, yeah. So you have all these things coming together, and I think Netflix is in the position to actually turn around and buy a large broadcaster or multiple large broadcasters. I don't know, say 10 years down the road, maybe 20, probably, you know. So who knows? But again, in 20 years, maybe we'll just have implants and, you know, we'll stream porn directly into our cerebral cortex and not care where it comes from.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
so
there you go.
Quick question then, slightly changing gears, but not really, because this makes a good segue. What is up with the whole cutting out the content creators of YouTube from a bunch of their revenue that they were getting?
In a nutshell, what has happened is advertisers actually realized that the controls around what ads get shown on YouTube and where they get shown is not as specific as, say, I need ad space on the second commercial break of insert TV show now. So they can't control it like that because the system is, YouTube is way bigger than what TV is doing at this stage. So you have, videos that are a second or two long, up to videos that are 10, 12, 20 hours long, having ad revenue placed in them. And the creators, the people that upload the videos, whether they created it or not is the problem a lot of the time, can control when ads are played. So essentially I could make a 2-hour video of myself doing this. And
you'd probably get more viewers than this one would.
Probably. And every, say, I don't know, 10, 11 minutes, I could put in a video ad. So every 11 minutes, it would fade to black. An ad would come up. It would fade to black. My video would continue. So, oh my God, I stabbed my brain. So the changes that YouTube has made is basically this. Hey, we understand you guys don't want your soap commercial playing on a video that features Nazis burning crosses. Oops. Nothing we can really do about that except give you more control over what kind of videos you have. And then you have the reality of the audience, which is not necessarily what these advertisers are expecting on television or film or whatever, where you have these people that are watching. There's the biggest subscribed dude on YouTube right now is still this guy named PewDiePie, who's a Swede who lives in the UK, and he plays video games and he acts like a silly guy, but he knows how to play the game. He knows exactly what to create because he knows his audience. However, do other people like what he does? Not necessarily. So people were like, hey, you can't do that, you're bad. And he's like, suck it, because my audience will tell me what to do, not you. And so that sort of tidal waved into this thing where advertisers said, well, we're not going to give YouTube money. And YouTube's like, well, okay, we'll come up with a way for you to have more control. But the world's changing, bitches. So part of what they've done in order to mitigate this problem is they have changed how monetization works on YouTube and, in the PewDiePie world. But now those changes have come to little channels like ours, where you have to have 10,000 views within a 30-day period in a calendar month, which we don't have. So our monetization disappears as of, what's the date? 2 days from now. So after 2 days from now, any ads that we've had playing on our videos, gone. History. I don't really care. But people that are, say, in the 5 to 10,000 range, who are trying to build audiences to make their video system their career, are gonna basically like, well, sorry, boot, you're out the door. Thanks so much for playing. And it also makes it harder to build audiences, which the problem with that is, if you're trying to build an audience, what are you going to do that's going to cater to people coming to your channel? Hey, Dave, take your dick out and jerk. Go. Like, I'm serious. You have channels that have people that are talking about really important things, that probably have important things to say or have a contribution. But I've watched this, and this is I can't remember the channel. What's the channel? There's a video game review channel that the people have. There's two people that sit on a couch and they talk about games they played. They share a little of gameplay as they're reviewing the game. And I swear to you right now, if you watch a video from a month ago, the female who's doing the reviewing with the male, so there's a male and a female doing the reviews, watch the clothing depth change in her videos. because they goddamn well know that if they're a small channel, which the one I'm talking about is, I think they've got about 20,000 subscribers or 30,000 subscribers at this point. You watch. They know the game. The game is younger demographics coming in to fill the holes where they're trying to get views. So suddenly we have, well, to be crass, we have more pug videos that don't really do anything other than people go, or cat videos, those kinds of things where the lower common denominator stuff gets more views because it's cute and it's fluffy and whatever, and it doesn't hurt anyone. But then you have other stuff that really deserves thought, deserves review, deserves viewers, not getting as many because they have to fight harder for that pie that's already divided in such a way that, like, the PewDiePies of the... I don't think you can really build a PewDiePie right now as easily as it was when he started. So I don't know. This is the shit I think about all day long. So there you go. I'm gonna shut up now. I'm out of beer.
No, I asked because I'm interested to hear what's going on with that, because I have seen enough YouTube that I know that it's an issue and people were really worried about what was going to happen, right? But I didn't know details.
It's basically, I mean, really, when you think about it, it's growing pains of an industry that's never existed before. We've never had a YouTube in the 1950s. We didn't have a YouTube in the 1990s. YouTube started in 2005 and then kind of grew from... Actually, it started growing and then got bought by Google, which gave it a real boost. So, you have these things that are interesting and are really good, but the growing pains are still there. And especially when, I mean, the buzzword that I hate is disruptors. But reality is people are pretty comfortable with what has already happened. It's, they want a place to go where they can see the stuff they want to see, and they don't really want to pay through the nose for it, which cable companies are just screaming because they don't know what to do. They have these services that they've created. They've got their content that other people have, that a lot of other people have created. Very few cable companies are making their own stuff. But they are relying on others to populate their channels. And we've had this growth of channels, what is it? 900 and something channels now, just, that you can get in a basic package. And who cares? The problem is, there is no one-stop shop right now. And that's kind of what people want. They want to be able to turn on a device and say, I want to watch this show right now. Boom. That's all they want. They're not going to sit there going, oh, damn, I need to get Crave TV to go. No, they're not thinking that, because HBO is feeling the pain. Game of Thrones, the very first episode, they were bitching and moaning about 91 million people that supposedly downloaded it via BitTorrent. And they wanted to sue people. They were fucking raving about it, rather than going, how do we solve this problem? How do we get people to subscribe to our HBO Online? Well, people in Canada can't. People in the States sort of can't, unless they have a cable package. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe we should open it up. Kind of like why Crave TV. Here's the thing. When Crave TV started, there were two services. There was Show Me and Crave TV. Both of them at the very beginning were connected to cable packages. Now Crave TV isn't. I actually would like to read more about that, but essentially they violated the Competition Act in our country, but that's beside the point. Show Me didn't survive. Show Me died because it's a hard business to be in. Netflix has had a lot of data from their DVD stuff, which they still run in some places, to their streaming service. And they've basically found all of these sorts of trends that have been going on that they keep to their little selves. And it's very interesting that other companies haven't said, the whole cable thing, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Maybe we should really just open the whole thing up, because, that's going to suck if we don't have any more cable subscribers. Like, you know, because eventually that's going to happen. Right now you have Shaw in our country, which is West Coast based. It recently purchased a company called Wave. Not Wave. Was it Wave? It's now called Freedom. They bought it because Shaw is freaking out. Shaw does not have the infrastructure to continue supplying cable service over a copper cable because TELUS has said, you know, LTE is really fast. Do we really need to dig up the ground some more and put in fiber all the time? Let's do that right now and service buildings that want it. But ultimately, you know, in like 10 years, I think all internet should be over the air. I think our LTE, whatever LTE looks like in a decade or even 20 years, yeah, we're not going to sell cable anymore. It's just going to be like a cell service. Period. Done. End of story. And Shaw shit their pants, and they, you know, they went to bid on different additional bandwidth from the government auctions of wanting to buy up some bandwidth so they could provide this more, and they ended up buying Wave. It's the technology. All of this stuff is coming to a head where we're starting to see these, you know, the realities that people are finally going, fuck, we can't do these things anymore the way that we've done them. We're fighting and scrambling and, you know, trying to hold on to it. But I think in the last few years, that's sort of when these companies have started realizing that, you know, I don't think we can fight it anymore. We're wasting money on infrastructure when really we should be doing infrastructure of the wrong type. We need to migrate into a different infrastructure set. So, and TELUS is laughing their ass off because they just have put fiber in the ground in a lot of places in the bigger cities, and said, hey, we're going to give you, you know, for the same price that you're paying for your really expensive internet that Shaw's providing you, we're going to give you 150 up and down and be done with it. And by the way, in like 2 years, that'll be 500. And then probably, you know, a couple of years after that, it's going to be a gig up and down. So, because, you know, we have to, you know, we know people want it. So we got to structure this so that we're actually going to be able to provide it by giving us time to actually put the infrastructure in. But, you know, Shaw's not doing that. Rogers isn't doing that. Fido's not doing that. I have a phone line over here for my company that is actually a cell phone. It's in a little box with 2 antennas with a SIM card in it, and it's a landline. So, you know, that I get from Rogers because they gave me, you know, for $10 a month or something. So we don't need to have cable in the ground. We need to have face the fact that everything is going to be wireless, and we're going to be dead of brain cancer in about 5 years. So
So join us next week when we teach you how to make tinfoil hats.
Tinfoil Brewing. That's a new brewery that we just started. Yeah, I'm going to be quiet again because this is, again, the stuff that I talk about and think about and read about all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just interesting to watch these trends from. Although I will point out right now, guess what business we should be all getting into? Beer with weed in it, because right now 5% of dispensaries, the ones that get legal weed, 5% of that is from a legal grower, which means that 95% of that weed is illicit. So what's I'm gonna buy some fields in Utah or wherever the hell, not Utah, what am I saying, Saskatchewan? Allie, we're going to Hallbright. we were in Hallbright, Saskatchewan, many years ago, and at the time there was this sign that said land for sale and unserviced, like it was just farmland. And if I had known about the weed market for $100 per 5 acres. I should have bought I had $500 in my pocket at the time. I should have been like, take this money now. Give me that land. But unfortunately I didn't. I'm sure it's far more expensive now. And the guy was just basically doing it like, I live here and I don't farm it anymore. I don't need it, so I'm going to sell it. What do you want for 5 acres? $100. And it was like unserviced. Okay, well, I'm not going to build a house anytime soon, but I would be a landowner in Saskatchewan. And now it could be turning into a legal grow up. There you go. Anyway, welcome back, boys and girls. Shit's about to get real.
Final words about the beer. I'm out of beer. This is
me
a
too.
problem.
My final word is
words?
kapla.
Kapla. Dave.
My final word. I like the label.
I like the
It's
label.
more than a word.
Wow.
That's very cool art.
If you're looking for a neat beer to try this fall, that gives a bit of a citrusy kind of tinge to your tongue, I suggest trying the Dead Frog Weeping Reaper Blood Orange Hellas Bock. Is it Hells or Hellas?
I think
I'll
it's
say
Hellas.
Probably Hellas, but I'll say hell.
Hellas Bock. And give yourself a bit of a treat. Thank you very much, Dead Frog.
Thank you, Dead Frog. Dave, take us out.
How do we go out? I guess we don't even have an out anymore.
We do. It's bye.